Garbage in, garbage out. Mic pre's and interfaces and how you get the most out of working completely in the box. Let's get it. Welcome to the Music Pro, where we offer practical recording objectives to help you explore your best options to capture your best work. I'm Shea Alexander Wright. Today, we're going to talk about the benefits of good mic pre's, audio interfaces, and how you can achieve maximum sonic fidelity. If you're new to audio production, you might even be wondering what even a mic preamp is or what it does. Simply, a mic pre boosts the weak signal of the microphone to a level that can be, worked with by your audio interface or mixer. But not all mic pre's are created equal. To break it down, every mic outputs a really low signal known as mic level. And the signal's really too weak to work with, directly. So you need a preamp to boost it to what we call line level. Now, think of it like turning up a whisper, the volume of a whisper until it's loud enough where you hear it clearly. But here's the catch. The quality of that amplification is what actually makes a difference. A cheap or poorly designed preamp is going to add unwanted noise and distortions. And, while a high quality preamp is going to make your sound clean, warm, and detailed. So what makes one better than the other? Let's go over some key factors. One is noise floor. This is how much background noise the preamp adds to the signal. The lower that noise floor, the cleaner your signal is. And then the second thing is gain range. Some mics, like ribbon mics, for example, need a lot of gain. A good preamp is going to give you enough clean gain without it distorting. And then the third thing is coloration. Some preamps add a unique character or quality to the tone, which people will describe as warm, or this is vintage sounding, or this one's bright. Other mic pre's are aiming strictly for transparency. Okay, so what I want to do now is connect this basic information to 4 popular hardware producers according to their mic pre and interface ranges. It's going to be Focusrite, UAD, RME, and Antelope. And let's give a quick, high-level view of these 4 different companies, right? Focusrite. When I was getting started as a serious engineer, Focusrite was known for its ISA, Input Signal Amplifier Tech, which was originally designed for George Martin, Beatles producer-engineer, Sir George Martin. He had a Neve desk down at his resort facility in Montserrat called Air Studios. These mic preamps sounded unbelievable. Now, Brainworks, which a lot of you guys might have, they got a plug-in modeled after the ISA console in Bear Track Studios. That was their part of it. The other line at the time that was popular was Red. It was a little lower end. I didn't particularly care too much for them. Now the Red label at Focusrite belongs to their high-end converter interfaces. According to Focusrite, though, that ISA design is implemented in all of their mic pre's via the air modes. Honestly, I don't care. I'll go over that later. The word clock they use is PLL, phase loop locking, which generates an output signal phase locked as it relates to the input signal phase. Now, there's no info that points to what makes their converter stand out. Focusrite, they claim the converters are dynamically wide, capturing signal ranging from quite soft to very loud with low distortion. And they don't have any DSP at all. Now, Universal Audio, historically known for Bill Putnam's innovative dynamics and channel strip designs, which were instrumental in shaping the modern recording sounds of Chicago and Los Angeles through the 40s, 50s, and 60s. Their mic pre's are high-end, and with their unison-enabled design, they offer what they call authentic analog emulation. They implement their own dual crystal clocking technology, which controls the conversion time in using 2 separate clocks, one for the sample rates 44.1, 88.2, and 176.4, and then the other one for the sample rates 48, 96, and 192. Apollos offer a wider dynamic range than Focusrite, and they come with onboard DSP. It can model the tones of renowned analog gear. I think it goes without saying, UAD's modeling is second to none. Okay, now getting even higher end gear brings us to RME, German company. They're known for having the very best components in their systems and being ahead of the curve when it comes to incorporating new connectivity protocols and getting zero latency performance. Their mic pre's, they got the reputation of being the absolute cleanest and the most transparent because they prioritize accuracy over coloration. They use their own steady clock, which is designed to maximize synchronization accuracy across multiple devices through the word clock. I can tell you from experience, it's rock solid. RME interfaces, they got onboard DSP, but they're particularly dedicated to EQ and dynamics. Now, finally, Antelope Audio. This company is relatively new on the scene in terms of popularity, but they're white fucking hot. Like RME, they're out of Germany too. And as I see it, they're like a mashup of RME and UAD. Superb and highly dynamic mic pre's, clocking, conversion, along with premier DSP and uncanny analog modeling. The Antelope uses the atomic clock, and it's as solid as they come, like on some NASA type shit. It measures time based on the vibrations of atoms, and it's the most accurate in existence, losing only 1 second every few million years. The dynamic range of these mic pre's, they're as wide as RME, and their DSP is as comprehensive as UAD. Now, a big plus personally is the Edge microphone modeling series. In our studios, we have Edge Solo and Note mics, and these things give the UAD Spear lineup like a run for its money. Now, the reason the quality of your mic pre's with a really tight conversion system matters is it's going to ensure that the signal going into your DAW is the absolute truest compared to the original source. It's a vocal, guitar, drum, keyboard, wind instrument, string instruments, whatever you're tracking. Now, what you're about to hear in this demo is a combination of RME and Antelope Audio devices at their best. What my brother and I are currently using in our studios here in LA are the RME Octamic D preamps going into Antelope interfaces. Before we installed the first Antelope piece, which is a Galaxy 32 Synergy core, all of our sound card rig was RME. Now, let's move on to the demo. This is actually a genre of music I don't hear too much of when it comes to YouTube demos and stuff. So I hope everybody's up for hearing something a little different, but dope nonetheless. Plus, we're gonna get to hear some real world players groove their asses off for a few minutes. A little while back, we did a session over at the house, at my brother's house, with an artist he goes on the road with pretty often, world-renowned jazz saxophonist Michael Lington. It was at a time where I was just starting to think about doing this channel, and I figured, it might be a good idea or opportunity to show how critical mic pre's are to getting professional results. Now, what you're going to hear and see is how easy it is to distinguish the sonic differences between several channel strip plugins. You'll understand why we've chosen the gear we have as the demonstration moves on. Now, before we get all the way to it, I do want to introduce the artists and some of the guys who make up his touring band. First and foremost, we have premier contemporary jazz artist Michael Lington on alto sax. My brother Chad A. Wright on drums. Carnell Harrell on keyboards. Jermone Randall's on bass. And on guitar, we got Romél Veal. You're going to see Michael in the live room with the band, but you'll actually be hearing his saxophone performance from a previous take, which he recorded in the control room with me. Now, during the first half of the song, I'll go between the various channel strip plugin examples, but I'm going to start with just the raw sound of the mic pre's. The second to last switch is going to go from that raw mic pre to the LA2A Neve 1073 insert chain. I'll explain what that is later. For the second half of the song, we'll just kick back and listen to a basic reference mix using the SSL 4KE channel strips with just a touch of reverb and a multi-effects on Michael's sax, which I think is a Waves epic. Now, the premise of this session was for Michael to have a studio quality reference of his live show for a few purposes. With this in mind, I started the mix like I would for doing a concert video. I'm not going to talk over this demonstration at all. I'm just going to let the music play and you can hear, the demonstration go between, plug-in setups or whatever, channel strips or whatever. And then I'm going to see y'all back after the music's done. Okay, so there you have it. There's my demonstration of mic pre's. I know this required critical listening, but if you're listening closely, you could hear the distinction between the different channel strips. Mainly in the mids, the low mids in particular, but you could hear the distinctions between the three. And you put that against the raw mic pre example, which is all levels, just balance. You hear how musical the mic pre's are by themselves. The instruments sound exactly what they're supposed to sound like frequency wise, and then dynamically you hear the performances of the different musicians going through that stuff. So that's what that is. I got to really quick apologize for how bright, on top of the mix, the saxophone is sitting on top of the mix way more than I would appreciate normally. But it also gives everybody a chance to hear naturally how bright the Neumann U87 microphone is. I put that mic on him not because it is my go-to mic for saxophone, but just because thinking ahead, I knew it would be a good idea to hear the characteristic of that microphone with an instrument playing through it. Typically, I'd reach for a U47 FET or a Sennheiser MD421 with the switch rolled all the way to music, where it says M for a saxophone. But that's what that is, and also it gives you an idea too of why we wanted mic pre's to be extremely transparent and detailed as opposed to colored. If you noticed, when the example switched to the LA2A 1073 insert chain, it got beefier, the bass got beefier, there was a little bit more oomph to the kick drum, things like that. The saxophone got a bit warmer. Well, that was really to demonstrate that, the other part of the reason we chose those mic pre's is we like to record our, in the input section, we like to record our sounds. We like to commit. Let me just say it like that. I like to commit my sounds as I'm recording. In the studio, let's take the drums for instance. In a commercial studio, I'm gonna mic the drums. They're all gonna go through the console, and I'm going to get sounds on the console. I'm gonna do some EQing. I'm gonna maybe do light compression through an LA2A or an 1176 or a DBX 160. If I'm going for more of a solid state thing, a VCA thing, as opposed to a tube thing or whatever. There's some colors that I'm going for, and I want to print that to hard disk, just as if I was going to print it to tape. I know I like to commit to that, and at the so that when I get to mix, I already have the essential sound that's going to be in the mix. I would typically run everything through some tape simulator, tape emulator plugin, the A800, for example, or the Abbey Road J37. Their version, their plugin of the J37 that's sitting in those studios there. Kramer tape, whatever it is, I've used a number of them. But I like to commit that. I like to bake that in, as we call it. It goes back, the other choice economically at the time that we were putting the first iteration of this studio together. People were, Pro Tools users were actually a couple of years already into transitioning their Mix 24 systems to HD Pro Tools. There's that conversation again. Real quick, I gotta give a special thanks to everyone who tapped in and contributed to the conversation on that Pro Tools industry standard thing. a super special thanks to Bolo, the producer, who tapped in and also shared the video. I really appreciate you, brother. And I got to thank you too, because I know Barry Johns initiated the conversation with his rant the other day, but your video stoked a more important conversation that's relative to what creatives require against the industry standard. My clapback was really initially about the evolution of it becoming the standard. What DigiDesign's path was to making it the standard, and to make the argument, make my case of why it is still the standard. But your conversation, your video, I hope people are paying attention to it. And when I say people, I mean the manufacturers who are developing and producing these platforms that we all work on. I hope they have their ears to the streets and are really, listening and paying attention to what it is creatives require, and put that against what the industry requires as a collective. All right, so I'm done with that. But my point to that is, what Chad and I wanted was, without going hardcore Pro Tools, because we're Steinberg guys. Look, remember, the Pro Tools ecosystem just does not work for our productivity. So we wanted the same quality, if not better, and the same efficiency, if not better, as those TDM HD Pro Tools rigs were producing. And RME was the choice on that. We knew we were going to get strong sound, strong conversion, strong efficiency, and in a native setting, and it turns out, on the mic pre's, we were 100% right. We put the first iteration of that studio together almost 20 years ago. Those mic pre's are still there. They're there. Everything else has come and gone. We've been through all sorts of computers in that room. We've been through several RME sound cards in there before we went to antelope interfaces. We have gone through computer displays. Reference monitors have changed several times. Everything else has had some sort of turnover, but the mic pre's have not. And you can correlate that to large format consoles that are as old as 20, 30, 40, 50 years. And they're either in the same places that they always were, or they've changed hands at different points. But the thing is, they're still good, they're still solid, and they still work and sound amazing. And that, that was well worth the money. I'm not by any means encouraging people to go out and spend a shit ton of money on mic pre's today or tomorrow. Not at all. But this example was to show, this demonstration was to show that, hey, if you are at a place where you're starting to figure out, hey, am I getting the best sound possible into my box that I can, or should I kind of step this up? This is where you start to think about stepping up your mic pre-game and capturing signal in a better way. Maybe that's not the thought for you to have today. Maybe that's the thought for you to have next month, next year, whatever. But this is just food for thought for that. Let's see, real quick, let's go over the equipment, the obvious equipment in terms of the playroom. Chad's drums, Yamaha Hybrid Maple Absolutes is what those are. That particular kit, that's one of his tour kits. He is a Yamaha artist. That particular kit was on one of the Jacksons tours a few years back. The microphones on that kit, inside the kick drum is an AKG D112. You guys probably noticed on the outside the Yamaha sub kick, that's in front of the main kick drum. His right, our left if we're viewing. The snare top is the tried and true SM57. Shure SM57. On the bottom is another Shure microphone. It's a condenser. I can't recall the model number right off the bat. It's rare, but that's what's on the bottom. We're kind of skimming during this session on the hi-hats. It's a Sterling on the hi-hats. Since that's changed, and the setup now is an Antelope Edge Note microphone, and we're modeling the Neumann U84 with that on the hats. Around the toms, 6 toms on that kit, 3 racks, 2 floors, 1 pickup to the left, all Sennheiser MD 468s. All the way around. He's only playing 3 toms rather, on this pass here. Overheads, AKG C414 XL2s are what the overheads are. Everybody else is going direct, and then of course I already covered Michael's saxophone being through a U87. So look, I'd love to hear what you guys are doing for mic pre's. Maybe if you're not doing anything too special or in particular on mic pre's, what your thoughts and ideas are for maybe elevating, if you are considering to elevate that game or that part of your game. I'd love to know what you guys are using for interfaces and how that's working out. Yeah, just put it in the comments and let's have a discussion. And remember, this channel is about inspiring ideas on approach. So, I just ask that everybody be really, constructive and kind in your input and stuff, in your contributions. And some of your choices are not going to be conventional. Some of your choices are going to be outside of the box, and that's good. That's okay, as long as it works. Remember, the thing is getting good sound, and it doesn't matter how you get good sound, just as long as you get good sound. I say that somewhere else in a video too. So thanks again for checking in. Until next time, I'm Shay Alexander Wright.